The night was cold, and the scrapyard stretched like an endless graveyard of broken machines. Old ships lay scattered, their metal bodies rusted and silent. Some still carried the smell of burned wires and fuel. Others were nothing but empty shells, torn apart for parts. This place was where forgotten things came to die, but hidden under a pile of broken panels lay something that was not a machine. It was a girl, an alien child, her skin pale and glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her legs did not move, her arms trembled weakly, and her body was thin. She had been thrown here by her own family, left to fade away like useless scrap. She was paralyzed, broken, and unwanted. Her heart beat slowly, but her eyes stayed open. Those eyes carried both pain and a small spark of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would come. She remembered the last words of her family. You cannot walk. You cannot fight. You cannot serve. You are nothing. Then they left her. In this place, turning their backs as if she never existed. The sound of their ship leaving still echoed in her memory. Every night she cried without sound, only tears rolling down her face. She wanted to scream, but her voice was too weak. She wanted to move, but her body refused. Around her, the scrapyard was not empty. Strange creatures crawled in the shadows. Metal scavenger bugs with sharp legs that fed on the weak and the dying. Their glowing red eyes moved closer whenever the night grew quiet. The girl feared them, but she could not run. Sometimes they circled her, testing if she was ready to be eaten. But always, some louder noise scared them away. She knew one day she would not be so lucky. This night, something different happened. A soft light cut through the darkness. It was not the red eyes of the creatures, but a white beam of light. Footsteps followed, heavy but careful. Someone was walking through. The scrapyard? The girl's heart raced. Was it another scavenger? Was it death finally coming? The light grew brighter, and then a figure appeared. A human, tall and rough, wearing old clothes covered in dust and oil. He carried a small lamp in one hand and a bag of tools in the other. His face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. He was searching for parts, broken wires, and pieces of metal to sell. Humans often came to places like this, but never for kindness, never for mercy. The human walked past piles of junk, pushing aside panels and digging into broken ships. Each sound of crashing metal echoed through the night. The alien girl wanted to call out, but her lips only moved without sound. She prayed silently. Please do not leave, please see me. Then, as if her prayer had reached him, the man's lamp shifted toward the pile where she lay. The light touched her face, revealing her glowing skin and tear-streaked eyes. The human froze. For a moment he thought it was just another broken machine, but then he saw her eyes blink. Alive. He stepped closer, confusion on his face. What in the stars? He whispered. The girl stared back, her eyes begging. The human crouched down, his lamp shaking slightly in his hand. He could see her body was broken, her legs unmoving. She was still breathing, but barely. He realized the truth. She had been abandoned. His mind raced. He knew what others would say. Leave her, she's not worth the trouble. Aliens like that only bring problems. She will slow you down, maybe even kill you. But when he looked into her eyes, he did not see a monster. He saw a child, helpless and alone. The girl's tears grew heavier. She tried to lift her hand, but it only shook weakly. The human felt his chest tighten. Why was he hesitating? Why did he even care? He was just a scavenger, a survivor. Every minute he wasted here was danger. Others were roaming the scrapyard, scavengers who would kill for even a small piece of metal. If they found him protecting her, they would tear them both apart. He stood there breathing heavily. His mind told him to walk away, but his heart told him to stay. Slowly he reached out and touched her cold hand. Her fingers trembled, but she held on as if clinging to life itself. The human's jaw tightened. He whispered, "You're not trash." But then, footsteps echoed in the distance. More scavengers, their voices sharp and cruel. "Check that side. Maybe we'll find something to sell," one said. The human's eyes widened. If they saw her, they would not hesitate. They would sell her body for parts. He had to make a choice, and he had to make it now. The girl's breathing grew fast, panic filling her weak body. She looked at him with pleading eyes. Would he leave her? Would he run away like her family did? The human clenched his fists. The voices grew closer, laughter mixing with the clanging of metal. He bent down and whispered in her ear, "Hold on." Then, with all his strength, he lifted her fragile body. Into his arms, her heart pounded as she felt warmth for the first time. The warmth of someone who did not abandon her, but shadows stretched across the scrapyard. The other scavengers were coming, and the human carrying her had nowhere to run. The human's arms held the paralyzed alien girl tightly as he pressed his back against a wall of broken metal. Her body was light, too light, as if she had not eaten for days. Her breathing was shallow, each breath sounding like a soft cry. The lamp he carried swung in his hand, throwing nervous shadows across the scrapyard. The other scavengers' voices grew louder. They laughed, cursed, and kicked metal aside, searching for anything to sell. "Keep looking, there's always something." "Hiding in the junk," one voice said. The human's heart raced. If they found him with the alien girl, it would be the end. He looked down at her, her wide eyes staring at him, begging without words. She was terrified, her tiny fingers clutching at his shirt as, though he was her last hope, he whispered almost to himself, "Why am I doing this?" He was a scavenger, not a hero. He lived by taking and selling, not saving. Saving her meant trouble, and trouble meant death. Yet when he tried to imagine putting her down and walking away, something inside him refused. Her tears burned in his mind. Her weak body reminded him of something, of someone he had once lost. He shook his head, trying to clear the memory. This was not the time. The scavengers were close now. One of them climbed onto a pile of scrap just a few steps away. The human crouched lower, holding his breath. He could hear their boots crunching the ground. He could smell the smoke from their torches. He knew if they looked this way, he was finished. The alien girl tried to stay quiet, but a small sound escaped her lips, a faint whimper like a broken bird. The human's eyes widened. Had they heard? The scavenger on the pile stopped, turning his head. "Wait, did you hear that?" he asked. Another laughed. "Probably just one of those rats. Keep moving." The human's chest loosened with relief. For now, they were safe, but not for long. He needed to move. He glanced around and spotted the shell of an old shuttle half buried. In the ground, its door was broken, but the inside might give them cover. Holding the girl tighter, he dashed silently through the shadows, his boots hitting soft dirt. Each step felt like thunder in his ears. He reached the shuttle and slipped. Inside, lowering himself to the floor, the girl's head rested against his chest. Her eyes glimmered with tears, but also with something else. Trust. She did not know this human, but he was the first person who had not abandoned her. She whispered faintly, her voice trembling. "Please, don't leave me." The human froze, her words cutting deep. It was the first time she had spoken, even if only in broken whispers. He looked at her and answered softly, "I won't." His voice was rough, but there was truth in it. He pulled out a rag from his bag and wiped the dirt and blood from her face. Her skin was soft but marked with bruises. He tore a strip of cloth from his sleeve and wrapped it around a small wound on her arm. It was not much, but it was something. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, feeling his touch, gentle unlike her family's harsh hands. The human sat back, his mind heavy. He asked himself again, what now? He could not take her home. He could not carry her forever. And if the scavengers caught him, both of them would be dead. But when he thought of leaving her, he felt sick inside. He remembered the emptiness in her eyes when he first saw her. He remembered her trembling fingers holding on to him. He whispered again, "I can't walk away." The sound of footsteps echoed outside the shuttle. The scavengers were moving closer again. Their laughter grew louder. "Nothing here tonight. Maybe we should check the far side." one said. The human's muscles tensed, ready to fight, if needed. But the voices slowly drifted away, fading into the night. For now, they were safe. He let out a breath he did not realize he was holding. The girl looked up at him again, her eyes glassy. She tried to speak, but her words were broken. "They left me to die," she whispered. Her voice cracked, full of pain and shame. The human's fists clenched. What kind of family would abandon their child like this? He shook his head, his voice low but firm. "Not anymore." She blinked at him, as if trying to understand. He repeated softly, "You're not alone anymore." For the first time, the girl's lips curved into the faintest smile. It was weak, almost invisible, but it was real. A smile born from the spark of hope. The human looked away quickly, hiding the strange warmth that grew in his chest. He had made his choice. He would not leave her behind, but danger was not gone. Far above the scrapyard, a faint red light blinked in the sky. It belonged to a drone, scanning the area. And it was not human technology, it was alien, her kind. The human narrowed his eyes as the drone passed overhead. He whispered to the girl, "Someone's looking for you." Her body trembled at his words. She knew who it was, her family, the ones who had thrown her away. If they found her alive, they would finish what they started. The human gripped her. Hand tighter, he had chosen to protect her. But now he realized the truth by saving her. He had placed himself in the path of something far greater than scavengers. He was standing against her own people, and they would not stop until she was gone. The night grew colder, and the scrapyard seemed to whisper with hidden dangers. Inside the broken shuttle, the human sat with the alien girl in his arms. His heartbeat was steady now, but his mind was full of storms. He had made his choice. He would not abandon her, but that choice carried a price. The girl's breathing was weak, but her eyes stayed fixed on him. She had never expected anyone to stay, never expected anyone to care. Her own blood had thrown her away like trash. Yet this stranger, this human, had risked everything just to keep her alive. She felt fear, but also a warmth she had never known before. Outside, the scrapyard creaked with movement. The scavengers were still searching. Their voices echoed faintly. "Spread out. Check the ships. There must be something valuable left here." Their torches flashed like fireflies in the night. The human knew they could not stay hidden forever. He leaned closer to the girl and whispered, "We need to move." His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with urgency. The girl tried to nod, but her neck was weak, her lips trembled. "They will kill me." The human shook his head. "Not while I'm breathing." Carefully, he lifted her again. Her body felt like carrying both a burden and a promise. He adjusted her weight in his arms and stepped quietly out of the shuttle. The scrapyard stretched ahead like a maze of shadows and rust. Every pile of metal looked the same, every corner held danger. But he had walked these paths before. If he could reach the far edge, there was an old tunnel that led out. It was risky, but it was their only chance. The girl's head rested against his chest as he moved. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. For the first time in her life, that sound comforted her. Her eyelids grew heavy, but she forced them open. She did not want to close her eyes, not when she feared he might vanish like everyone else had. Suddenly, a beam of light swept across the ground. The human froze, pressing himself against a broken engine. The scavengers were close, too close. He could hear their boots crunching the dirt. "Something's moving over there," one voice muttered. The human held his breath, his muscles stiff as stone. The girl's small hand clutched his shirt tighter, her fear spilling into his chest. A moment passed, then another. The beam of light moved away. The scavengers laughed, deciding it was nothing, but the human knew luck could not save them forever. He started moving again, faster now. His boots stepped carefully, avoiding the sharp edges of broken steel. He weaved through the piles of junk, his mind mapping each turn. The girl felt every motion, her fragile body swaying in his arms. She wanted to speak, to thank him, but her throat was too dry. Instead, she whispered one broken word. Why? The human glanced down, his face unreadable. He understood what she meant. Why risk his life for a stranger? Why carry a paralyzed alien child through a death field? He sighed softly. Because no one else would, he said. And that was all. The girl closed her eyes again, and for a moment she felt something she had never felt before. Safe, but safety did not last. A sharp, metallic screech echoed through the scrapyard. The human turned his head and froze. From the shadows, small scavenger creatures crawled out, thin bodies with glowing red eyes and claws made of sharpened metal. They sniffed the air, their senses tuned to weakness, and they had found her. That the girl's body shook in his arms. She had seen them before, circling her in the nights when she lay helpless. They fed on the dying, tearing apart flesh and bone like paper. Tears filled her eyes. She could not fight them, not even scream loud enough to scare them away. The human tightened his grip. "Stay with me," he whispered. He reached for a metal rod lying on the ground. It was rusty and bent, but it was still a weapon. The first creature hissed, its claws scraping against the dirt as it charged. The human swung the rod, smashing it across the beast's head. Sparks flew as the creature screeched and collapsed. The others hissed louder, crawling forward. The girl buried her face against his chest. Her small voice shook. "You will die." But the human growled, "Not tonight." He swung again, knocking back another creature. But more were coming, their red eyes glowing brighter. The human's arms ached from holding her, but he refused to let go. He kicked one creature aside and dashed forward. The tunnel was close now. He could almost see it in the distance, a faint archway of stone at the scrapyard's far edge. If they could reach it, maybe they could escape. He ran, every step a battle. The girl felt the world rush past her as he moved. The creatures followed, their claws clicking on the metal ground. They were faster than him. One leapt from a pile of scrap, aiming straight for the girl. The human twisted, shielding her with his body. The creature's claws scraped across his arm, cutting deep. Blood spilled, but he did not stop. The girl's eyes widened, horror filling her heart. He was bleeding because of her, because he refused to abandon her. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I am sorry." But the human only gritted his teeth. "Don't be sorry," he growled. "Be alive." Finally, the tunnel came into view. The human sprinted, his legs burning. He swung the rod one last time, smashing another creature aside. With a final leap, he rushed through the archway and into the darkness beyond. The creatures hissed at the edge but did not follow. The tunnel was too narrow, too sharp for their metal bodies. For now they were safe. The human collapsed against the tunnel wall, gasping for breath. The girl lay in his arms, staring at his bleeding arm. Her tears fell again, but this time they were mixed with something new. Not only fear, but guilt. She whispered, "Why? Do you fight for me?" The human closed his eyes, pain tightening his jaw, and for the first time he answered honestly, "Because no one fought for me when I needed it." The girl's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded with a strange feeling. This human was broken too, and yet he chose to carry her. But before either could rest, a faint humming sound filled the tunnel. The human raised his head sharply. At the far end of the tunnel, a red light appeared. It was not scavengers, not creatures. It was a drone, her kind, and it was coming straight toward them. The tunnel was dark, narrow, and damp. The human pressed, his back against the rough wall, holding the alien girl close. His arm still bled from the creature's claw, but he ignored the pain. Every sound echoed here. The drip of water, the crunch of his boots, and the faint humming ahead. The red glow moved closer, flickering against the walls. It was the drone, not human-made, not scavenger-made. It carried the smooth lines and strange symbols of her own people, the very ones who had abandoned her. The girl's small body shook in his arms, her eyes wide with terror. She whispered, They will kill me." Her voice cracked, her lips trembling. The human bent his head, whispering back, "Not while I'm here." The drone stopped mid-air, scanning the tunnel. Its light swept over the walls, then landed on them. A sharp sound filled the air like a siren. The human's jaw tightened. They know we're here, he muttered. He turned, searching for an escape. The tunnel stretched both ways, one toward the scrapyard they had fled, the other deeper into unknown darkness. He chose the darkness. He ran, his boots slapping the wet stone, the girl clinging weakly to his chest. Behind them, the drone followed, its red light glowing brighter. The girl closed her eyes, her heart racing. She felt guilt crushing her. This human was bleeding, running, risking everything, because of her. She wanted to tell him to drop her, to save himself. But when she looked at his face, she saw determination carved into his eyes. He had already chosen. He would not let her go. The tunnel curved, opening into a larger cavern. Strange roots hung from the ceiling, glowing faintly blue. Pools of water reflected the red light of the drone as it entered behind them. The human stumbled to a stop. His chest heaving, there was nowhere left to run. He set the girl gently on the ground against the wall. Then he gripped the rusty rod with his good arm, his body ready. The drone hovered closer, its weapons shifting. Small barrels glowing with deadly light. The human's teeth clenched. He was no soldier, no fighter. But if this machine wanted her, it would have to go through him. The girl tried to lift her arm, her voice breaking. No, you will die. Her eyes filled with tears. The human gave a faint smile. Maybe, but not without giving it a fight. The drone's weapon charged. But then, something strange happened. The girl's skin began to glow softly, not from fear, not from pain, but from deep within her. Her trembling hand pressed against her chest, and a faint symbol appeared under her skin, a swirling mark of light, ancient and powerful. The human's eyes widened. "What is that?" he whispered. The girl's voice shook. "My blood is not normal. They feared me. They called me cursed." Her tears fell, but the light only grew brighter. "They wanted me gone. Because of this." The drone stopped, its sensors reacting to the glow. It made a sharp, metallic noise like recognition. The light inside, its weapon dimmed for a moment, confused. The human glanced between the girl and the drone. Her family hadn't abandoned her just because she was weak. They had abandoned her because she carried something they feared, something hidden, something dangerous. The cavern filled with a strange hum. The mark on her chest glowed brighter until the light spread across her veins like fire. The human shielded his eyes. The girl gasped as if the power burned inside her. Her weak body shook, yet for the first time she felt strength returning. Not in her legs, not in her arms, but in the strange force flowing through her blood. The drone let out a mechanical shriek and fired. A bolt of red light shot forward. The human braced himself, but before it could strike, the girl's glow burst outward, forming a shield of pure energy. The blast struck the shield and dissolved into sparks. The cavern shook with the force, water rippling in the pools. The human stared in shock. You stopped it." The girl's face twisted with pain, tears running down her cheeks. She whispered, "I can't hold it long." Her body trembled as if the power was too heavy. The human dropped to her side, gripping her hand. "Then I'll fight with you," he said firmly. Even though he had no idea what this power was, he refused to let her carry it alone. The drone adjusted, preparing another shot. The girl screamed softly, her glow bursting brighter. The energy shield grew, wrapping around them both. The second blast hit, exploding like thunder. But again the shield held. The cavern rocks cracked, water sprayed, and the air filled with smoke. When the light cleared, the drone was struggling, sparks flying from its body. The human saw his chance. He grabbed the rusty rod and charged. With a furious cry, he swung it into the drone's center. Metal cracked, wires tore, and the machine crashed to the ground. Its red eye flickered, then went dark. Silence filled the cavern, broken only by the sound of dripping water. The human dropped the rod, panting hard. He turned back to the girl, who lay trembling on the ground. The glow around her faded, leaving her weak and pale again. Her eyes fluttered open, meeting his. I didn't want this," she whispered. He touched her shoulder gently. "It's not a curse," he said. "It saved us." She looked at him, her tears still falling. "No, It will bring them. They will never stop hunting me. Her voice was filled with despair. The human's jaw tightened. Then let them come, he said firmly. They'll have to go through me first. The girl's chest ached with both fear and warmth. Her whole life, she had been called useless, cursed, broken. But in this human's eyes, she was something else. Someone worth saving, someone worth fighting for. The cavern trembled again, but this time from far above. The human looked up. Through cracks in the rock, faint lights glowed, ships descending. Not scavengers, not drones, her family's soldiers. They had come to finish what they started. The cavern shook with distant thunder. The human raised his head, staring at the cracks in the stone ceiling. Through them, faint beams of light shone down. Not natural light, searchlights from ships. The air trembled with the heavy hum of engines. The girl's own people had come. The alien girl trembled, her fingers digging weakly into the human's shirt. Her pale face turned toward the ceiling, her lips whispering, "They found me," her eyes filled with fear, tears sliding down her cheeks. "They won't let me live, not after this." The human knelt beside her, blood still dripping from the wound in his arm. He grabbed her hand firmly and said, "Listen to me. No one decides your life but you." His voice was sharp, steady, filled with iron. The girl blinked at him, surprised. No one had ever spoken to her like that. The ground shook again, dust falling from the ceiling. A roar of engines filled the cavern. As a transport ship lowered above the scrapyard, the human could hear voices echoing through the tunnel entrance. Deep, commanding armored soldiers marching, they carried heavy blasters, their footsteps like war drums. These were not scavengers, these were hunters. The human pulled the girl into his arms again. He whispered, "We need to move now." Her body was limp, her strength drained by the strange power she had released earlier. She could not run, could not fight, but she clung to him, as if his arms were the last safe place in the galaxy. They moved deeper into the cavern. The walls twisted into a maze, old and half-forgotten. The air smelled of damp stone and rust, but even here, the sound of marching grew louder. The soldiers were spreading out, their voices commanding, "Find her, leave no trace, she must not survive." The human's jaw clenched. He had heard many cruel orders in his life, but this one burned his chest. She was a child, broken and abandoned, and still they hunted her like an enemy. He muttered under his breath, "Cowards." The girl heard his voice and whispered weakly, "You don't understand. They are afraid of me." Her fingers trembled against his shirt. "They say my blood carries a secret, a weapon that could destroy them all." She looked away, shame in her eyes. "That is why they left me to die." The human stopped, staring at her. He remembered the glow, the mark, the shield she had created. He realized now, she was not just abandoned for weakness, she was abandoned for fear. They were not trying to protect her, they were trying to erase her. He bent his head close and whispered fiercely, "You are not a weapon. You are a child. You are alive. That is what matters." The girl's eyes widened, her tears falling faster. No one had ever said those words to her before. The tunnel suddenly blazed with red light. Soldiers had arrived, their armor shining with the symbol of her family's empire. Their leader stepped forward, his voice echoing cold and sharp. "Return her to us, human, and you may live." He raised his blaster, aiming directly at the girl. "She is broken, cursed, and dangerous. She does not belong with you." The human stood tall, his body blocking her completely. His voice was calm but fierce. "She belongs with no one who would throw her away." His eyes narrowed. "If you want her, you'll have to take her from me." The soldiers sneered, their weapons charging. One fired, a bolt of red energy flying across the cavern. The human dove aside, holding the girl close, the blast slamming into the stone wall. Rock exploded, shards raining. "Down!" The girl screamed softly, her body trembling with fear. The human gritted his teeth and whispered, "Stay with me. Don't give up." The soldiers advanced, their steps heavy. Blasters lit the cavern with deadly fire. The human ducked behind a jagged rock, his heart pounding. He had no real weapon, only a broken rod and his will to fight, but he refused to surrender. The girl felt his body shaking as he shielded her from each blast. Her chest burned, the strange energy inside her stirring again. She whispered through tears, "If I release it again, it could kill you too." The human looked down at her, his eyes steady. "Then trust me," he said. "Don't let them decide who you are." Her breath caught, her glow flickering faintly beneath her skin. The soldiers charged, their leader raising his arm for the final strike. The girl closed her eyes, tears falling. And then the cavern filled with blinding light. A wave of energy burst outward from her fragile body. The ground shook, rocks cracked, the air hummed with power. The soldiers were thrown back, their blasters flying from their hands. Some crashed into the walls, others fell to the ground groaning. Only the leader stood, struggling against the force, his armor sparking. The human shielded his eyes, but when he looked down, the girl's face was twisted with pain, her body trembling as if the power was tearing her apart. He grabbed her shoulders and shouted, "Enough! You don't have to destroy yourself for them." The energy slowed. The glow fading, the soldiers lay scattered, but the leader still stood, his blaster crackling with fire. His voice roared, "She is an abomination. She will doom us all." The human stepped in front of her, raising the broken rod like a sword. His voice rang through the cavern. "No, she will save us." The leader's weapon charged, light building at its core. The human tightened his grip, his heart steady. Behind him, the girl whispered one last time, "I will not be abandoned again." The cavern shook as the leader fired. The human braced for the impact, and in that final moment, the girl's glow exploded once more, brighter than ever before. The cavern had fallen silent after the storm of light. The soldiers lay scattered, groaning on the ground, their armor cracked and smoking. The leader was nowhere to be seen, thrown deep into the shadows. The human stood in the middle of the chaos, chest heaving, gripping the alien girl in his arms. Her glow had faded, leaving her pale and fragile once more. Her head rested against his chest, her eyelids heavy. She looked as if the power had drained every drop of strength from her body. Yet even in weakness, her eyes shone with something new. A quiet fire, a will to keep living. The human's arm burned from his wounds, blood dripped down his sleeve, but he ignored it. He tightened his hold on her and whispered, "We can't stay here. More will come." His voice was low, steady, but his heart raced with urgency. He carried her out of the cavern, following hidden paths only scavengers knew, through cracks in the stone, through tunnels that smelled of damp earth and rust. Until, at last, they reached a forgotten door, an old iron hatch half buried beneath rubble. The human shoved it open with all his strength, the hinges screaming. Behind it lay a small chamber lit only by faint, flickering lights. This was his safe house, a place he had built from scraps, hidden deep beneath the world of junk. It was small, with only a broken bed, a few supplies and tools scattered across the floor, but here at least, they could breathe. He laid the girl gently on the bed. Her body sank into the torn blanket, her breathing slow but steady. The human grabbed a rag and water from a rusty can. He cleaned her face, wiping away dust and blood. Then he wrapped new cloth around her wounds, tying them carefully. The girl's lips trembled. "You always help me," she whispered weakly. Her voice was soft, almost like a child's. The human looked down at her, his rough hands pausing. For a moment, he did not know how to answer. Finally, he said, "Because no one helped me when I needed it." The girl blinked, her eyes full of questions, but she was too tired to ask. Her hand lifted slowly, weak but determined. She touched his arm, right where the wound bled through the cloth. "You saved me, but you are hurt," she whispered. The human gave a small smile. "I've had worse," he said, but inside, her concern touched him deeper than any wound. Hours passed in silence. The girl drifted between sleep and wakefulness. The human sat nearby, fixing his broken tools. Every so often he looked at her, And every time he felt that strange warmth in his chest, he had spent his life in loneliness, a scavenger with no one waiting for him. Now, for the first time, he did not feel alone. When the girl woke again, she whispered, "Why do you care for me?" Her eyes searched his, filled with both fear and wonder. The human set down his tools and leaned closer. "Because you deserve it," he said simply. "You are not broken. You are not trash. You are alive, and that is enough." Tears welled in her eyes. Her own family had called her useless, cursed, unwanted. Yet this stranger, this human, spoke to her as if she mattered. Her lips trembled, but then curved into the faintest smile. For the first time she felt the meaning of the word family. The human stood and rummaged through his supplies. He pulled out pieces of metal, wires, and scraps of old tech. He began assembling something, his hands moving with purpose. The girl watched with curiosity, her eyes following his every move. After a long while, he turned and showed her. It was a crude frame, built from metal rods and joints, a device meant to support her weak body. "It's not perfect," he said, "but it might help you move again." The girl's eyes widened, shining with hope and disbelief. No one had ever built anything for her. No one had ever believed she could stand again. Her voice shook. "You made this for me?" The human nodded. "Yeah, you deserve a chance." Her tears fell freely now, but they were not only tears of sadness. They were tears of hope. She whispered softly, "Maybe I'm not useless after all." The human smiled faintly. "You never were," he said. For a moment, the safe house felt warm, almost peaceful. But peace did not last. A deep rumble shook the ground, rattling the walls. The girl's eyes widened in fear. She knew that sound. The hum of massive engines, the shadow of her people's warship descended above the scrapyard. The human rushed to the hatch, peering upward through a crack. His eyes narrowed. The sky glowed red as the massive ship blocked out the stars. This was no small squad of soldiers. This was an entire fleet. They had come to finish the hunt. The girl's chest tightened with dread. "They brought the warship," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "They will destroy everything. Just to erase me." The human turned back to her, his jaw clenched. He walked to her side and knelt, gripping her hand. "Then let them come," he said. "They won't take you. Not while I'm here." The girl's eyes filled with tears again, but this time there was no despair. There was something else. "Trust," she whispered. "You are my family now." The ground shook harder, dust falling from the ceiling. The warships, cannons roared in the distance. The human stood tall, gripping the crude frame he had built for her. The bond between them was no longer fragile. It was unbreakable, forged in fire, and together they would face the storm that was coming. The ground trembled like a living beast. Above the scrapyard, the warship hovered, massive and dark, blocking out the stars. Its engines roared, shaking. Every broken ship and every twisted piece of metal below. Searchlights swept across the ruins, cutting through the night. The sky itself seemed to bend beneath its shadow. Inside the hidden safe house, the human stood tall. Beside him, the alien girl lay weak but awake. Her body trembled, yet her eyes burned with something new. Not only fear, but a quiet determination. For the first time in her life, she was not completely alone. The human strapped the crude frame he had built. Around her it was rough, made from scavenged rods and wires, but it held her body upright, supporting her fragile limbs. The girl gasped as her feet touched the ground for the first time in years. Her legs shook, her hands gripped the frame tightly, but she was standing. A tear slid down her cheek. I can stand," she whispered. The human gave her a small nod. "You can do more than that," he said. Outside, the warship's loudspeakers boomed. The voice of a commander echoed across the scrapyard. "Paralyzed one. You cannot hide, not from your own blood. You are cursed, a danger to all. Surrender now, or we will erase this entire place." The girl's chest tightened. Her own family, the ones who had thrown her into the junk. now demanded her death once more. Her lips trembled, but when she looked at the human, she saw no fear, only defiance. His voice was steady. Let them threaten. They'll see what happens when you fight back. The girl's heart pounded. For so long she had believed she was useless, cursed, forgotten. But now, with this human beside her, she felt a spark of courage. She whispered softly, I don't want to hide anymore. The human nodded firmly. Then we won't. The warship fired its first shot. A beam of energy crashed into the scrapyard, exploding metal into fire and dust. The ground shook violently, the safehouse walls cracking. The human grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her up. We move now, he shouted. They climbed out of the hatch into the chaos above. The scrapyard was ablaze, fire and smoke rising into the night. The warship loomed overhead, soldiers pouring down in dropships. Dozens of armored figures landed on the burning ground. Weapons glowing, they marched forward, their voices cold. She must be destroyed. Erase the cursed child. The human stepped in front of her, gripping his broken rod like a blade. You'll have to erase me first, he growled. The girl looked at him, her tears shining. In that moment, she realized something. He was not fighting only to protect her. He was fighting because he believed in her. The soldiers raised their weapons. The girl's chest burned, the strange mark glowing once more beneath her skin. But this time she did not cry, she did not tremble. She whispered firmly, no more. Her body lit up with brilliant light. The glow spread through her veins, her skin shining like a star. The crude frame around her hummed as if alive. The soldiers fired, red bolts raining down. But her glow burst outward, forming a shield that wrapped around both her and the human. The blasts struck but vanished into sparks. The soldiers staggered back, shielding their eyes from the brightness. The commander's voice roared from the warship. She is dangerous. End her now. But the girl stood taller, her weak legs trembling. Inside the frame, her voice rang across the battlefield, broken yet strong. I am not cursed, I am not useless, I'm alive. The human stood beside her, his face hard, his voice sharp. And she is not alone. Together they stepped forward. The girl raised her trembling hands and beams of light erupted from her body. The ground shook as the energy struck, the soldiers throwing them back like rag dolls. Their weapons cracked, their armor shattered. The warship above shook, its engines groaning under the wave of power. The commander shouted in disbelief. She was broken. She was nothing. The girl's eyes burned as she looked up. Her voice was clear now, carried on the wind. You called me broken, but I was only waiting to rise. The human placed his hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. Show them who you are, he said. And she did. With one final cry, she unleashed all the light inside her. A great wave of energy surged upward, striking the warship. Its hull groaned, cracks spreading across its massive body. The engines sparked, explosions blooming along its surface. The soldiers on the ground scrambled, shouting in panic. The ship that had once darkened the sky now burned in flames. The girl fell to her knees, her body trembling. But the human caught her, holding her steady. The warship roared one last time before crashing down into the scrapyard. Metal twisted, fire erupted, and the ground shook like thunder. When the smoke cleared, silence followed. The soldiers who survived fled into the night. They were broken, defeated, and the girl was still standing. She looked up at the human, her tears shining like stars. I was nothing, she whispered. No, he said softly, kneeling before her. You were never nothing. You were always more than they could see. The girl's lips trembled. She leaned against him, her voice weak but full of warmth. You are my true family now. The human held her close, his voice steady. And you are mine. Above them, the sky cleared. The stars returned, shining bright where once the warship had blocked them. The scrapyard was still burning. But inside the fire, something new had been born. A bond between two worlds. A girl once abandoned and a human who refused to leave. Together they had faced death, and together they would face the galaxy. The girl, no longer forgotten, whispered one last time, I will rise again.